Lots of people have asked me what I think about this letter that was produced at the 11th hour of Harry's High Court hearing over his security arrangements. And in short, I just don't buy it. But this is my view, of course. But that's what you're here for on Black Belt Secrets. So please do subscribe if you're new here, or if you're not new here and you just haven't subscribed yet, please do that, because that's the one thing I do ask of you. About 60% of you don't, which blows my mind. But hey, please do that. But let's go back over this letter so that we know exactly what we're talking about. So in this part of the judgment here, the judge said, on the last day of the hearing before me, Ms. Fatima King's counsel produced a copy of a letter dated the 6th of December from the Chief of Intelligence of the New York Police Department, and the letter is addressed to the Chief Superintendent, OCU Commander, Royalty and Specialty Protection. He says that he wishes to make the Chief Superintendent aware that certain changes to the security that will be afforded the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in light of the security incident that took place on the 16th of May 23. That was the so-called high-speed, near-catastrophic car chase through New York City, which many people have probably disagreed with quite strongly, to say the least. The letter says that a thorough review of the incident... Now, this is where it's a bit at odds and why I don't buy it. And I'm going to come to some news reports from that incident. The letter says that a thorough review of the incident had taken place, and although no formal charges were brought against the parties involved at the time, we did conclude that the behaviour in question was reckless. As a result, redacted, beginning with an upcoming in the coming weeks, the investigation has found reckless disregard of the vehicle and traffic laws, etc. But the judge didn't really take this into account. Whilst the judge did refer back to this, said that ultimately it didn't mean that there was any evidence of people actually trying to cause them harm, and it didn't affect the lawfulness of the decision made by Ravik. But that aside, the judge did, as he should, reference the letter, bring it in, and somewhat consider it. But we've got two things here. We've got this article in the New York Post, where it says, sources told the Post there is not sufficient evidence to charge anyone, which is at odds with what the letter says, because the letter says here in the conclusion was that there was sufficient evidence to arrest two individuals for reckless endangerment. So which is it? Were people arrested or not? Because the Post sources say that they were not. New York Police Department sources told the Post that the case had been thoroughly probed by the force and Manhattan DA, and no charges are likely to be filed. And while the probe found reckless and unacceptable behaviour, which is not unusual, paparazzi do go to lengths, perhaps further than they should, to get photographs and so on. But sources said that Harry and Meghan's security contributed to the conditions by not adhering to the NYPD proposed stop, according to these police sources. But the other reason I don't buy this whole thing is if we go back to the original news reports. This is a BBC report from the 19th of May, so a few days later. And the BBC, being the BBC, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but splits the hairs here and says, conflicting accounts of an incident of Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan, spokesperson described as a near-catastrophic car chase, have emerged since it was made public on Wednesday. New York police said numerous photographers had made the couple's journey challenging, but there'd been no reported collisions, summonses, injuries, or arrests. So, nothing. So, just a challenging journey. A taxi driver who briefly drove them, you remember the taxi driver who appeared and somewhat jovially said that they were not being aggressive and that nothing like that happened. And photographers involved have also denied parts of Harry and Meghan's account. And then it goes on to discuss what they were doing and what was going on. Then there's the account of Harry and Meghan, which via a spokesperson said a ring of highly aggressive paparazzi followed them for over 2 hours. They said that the relentless pursuit resulted in multiple near collisions involving other drivers on the road, pedestrians, and 2 New York police officers. It was alleged that those driving in the chase broke multiple car rules, running red lights, driving on the pavement. Sounds like something out of a film. But this begs the question, Where is all the footage of this? Now, bearing in mind that this was supposedly, in their own words, a relentless pursuit of highly aggressive paparazzi, what do paparazzi do? They take photographs, they take film, and there were one or two photographs from within the vehicles, but one would expect, if this were over 2 hours of paparazzi chasing multiple vehicles, one would expect a significant amount more footage than we actually saw, which is a point the BBC comes back to in a minute. A member of the security team says, "I've never seen or experienced anything like it. What we were dealing with was chaotic. There were dozens of vehicles, cars, scooters and bicycles. The public were in jeopardy at several points. It could have been fatal." This would have been all over the news. There would have been dozens of videos, dozens and dozens of photographs, if it were paparazzi chasing them around for 2 hours. And then what happened in the taxi. But of course, the taxi, Sunny Singh, told the BBC he'd driven a block and then got blocked by a garbage truck. And then paparazzi came and started taking pictures. And then he was asked to take them back to the police station. But then there's what do the photographers say? Well, Backgrid said that they're investigating the conduct of 4 freelance photographers involved in taking images. However, the agency said photographers disputed some aspects of the Sussex statement. That's an understatement if ever I've seen one. They say that we understand that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's security detail had a job to do. We respect their work. They said, we do, however, want to point out that according to the photographers present, there were no near collisions or near crashes during this incident. The photographers have reported the feeling that the couple were not in immediate danger at any point. The Backgrid told the BBC that it turned down a request from the Sussex's lawyers to hand over photographs, film and video taken by freelance photographers in the hours after the couple left the awards ceremony. One paparazzi driver told Good Morning Britain that he'd been involved in the incident and the photographers had been hoping for the couple would go out for a meal after the awards ceremony. For the most part, I was driving and it was very tense trying to keep up with the vehicles. He said they did a lot of blocking. There was a lot of different types of maneuvers to stop what was happening. The paparazzi driver, who was not named, told the programme their driver was making it a catastrophic experience. If they were going at 80 miles an hour, I would have probably been doing 20 miles an hour behind them, hoping to keep sight of them. So if it was dangerous and catastrophic, it was more likely based on the person that was driving. But here again, another reason why I don't buy this. What have the police said? In a statement on Wednesday, so just a reminder, this is at the time, it's contemporaneous statements made by the police. In a statement on Wednesday, New York police confirmed it had assisted the couple's private security team during their challenging return home. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex arrived at their destination and there'd been no reported collisions, no summonses, no injuries, no arrests in that regard, they said. So their immediate and contemporaneous comment as to what happened was that there were, while it was challenging, we accept that, there were no reported collisions, no summonses, no injuries, no arrests. So essentially, if there were any reason to arrest anybody, they would have known so at the time because it would have all been made apparent. And I also find it really odd that this letter that found its way into the judgment that was handed down on the 28th of February 2024, after the hearing was on the 5th to the 7th of December 2023, and that it was on the last day of that hearing that this letter was produced, which was dated the 6th of December, even though this whole incident happened in May. I just find all of that a little bit odd. And while the judge obviously incorporated the letter, referenced it, ultimately while specifying that at paragraph 209, as noted, contrary to what appears to have entered the public domain, the letter states that reckless endangerment did take place on the 16th of May when the claimant and Duchess were being driven in Manhattan. The fact that redacted something or other in any event does not redacted. But then it says here, the claimant suggests that if a photographer is able to get so close to the vehicle in which he's travelling in order to take a photograph of him, then so too could someone with the intent to harm him. But the judge says, whilst this may be true, it sheds no light on the risks of there being persons with such hostile intent. And then below that says, in view of what he's just said, these complaints were wrongly directed at Ravik. So in other words, they didn't have any material impact on Ravik's decision at all. But the question over this letter, I find it odd, to say the least, that it appeared many, many months later and then was produced on the last day of a hearing. And so my view about this letter and the contents within it are, at the very least, that it contradicts the contemporaneous reports, both by the police, the news, the paparazzi, and the factual events, in that there were factually no collisions, no injuries, no arrests, no summonses, nothing else happened. I accept that it probably was a challenging journey caused by paparazzi, and that's not unusual. That happens a lot, and arguably still happens very much more than it should. But again, that's a very different argument to what actually happened, and a very different argument as to this letter and its origins and so on. But make of that what you will. Those are my thoughts of it. Lots of you have asked me for those over on Black Belt Barrister, so those are my thoughts. I find it extremely contradictory, and as a piece of evidence, I wouldn't find it very persuasive. So those are just my views. Let me know yours below. Do make sure you subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.